Well, here's today's project. This is an 8110. I already took the hood off of it, and it's got an exhaust manifold. Gasket leak in here. This stud is broken. This stud is not too far behind it, and then of course the gasket is popped out of there. So I'm gonna have to take the exhaust manifold off and clean up the head, get new gaskets in it, and new studs. Get that all back together. This tractor's got 13,700 and some odd hours on it. So the only thing we've ever done to the engine on this tractor is we put new injectors in it here. I think it was about a year ago. So had all new injectors, new injection pump, whatnot like that. So that's the only thing we've ever done to this tractor. So it's been pretty decent. Again, this is an 8110. So they're doing service on the payloader next door, and we're waiting for some more parts to come back for the C5. So alright, Jared and Travis kind of took over on this job, and there's not much to show you. They got the exhaust manifold off, and this stud here was missing, this bottom one in the front, and all the other ones came out without breaking. So usually they end up breaking, and you end up having to weld a nut on them and pull them out, but that's not the case here. So the main reason why we're changing these gaskets is we had a broken stud up front there, so that caused that manifold to loosen up, and then it just wears on the gasket. So they're getting things cleaned up. They're going to put the unit back together here, and me and her are working on the C5. Got an oil change going on. Nate's doing on the 4250. Well, that's just about going to wrap up this job. Jared and Travis ended up actually doing this job. I took the hood off, and the heat shroud that went around the back side of that manifold, and then you can see that this tractor has 3,747 hours on the tack. These tacks that are in these John Deere tractors only have 4 digits, so they roll over. Once they get to 9,999 hours, you'd have thought they'd have made them a 5-digit hour meter. But at any rate, it is what it is. We do have a coolant leak here somewhere. We're thinking that it's either a hose clamp on that thermostat housing, or it's the plastic reservoir. So we've got to let that run here for a little while and just take a peek at it as it gets up to operating temperature, just to see what in the heck is leaking on that, and get that fixed before we put the hood back on and roll it out of the shop here. So we spread manure with this. This is rotted out underneath the cab. It's a 2000 model, so this tractor's closing in on 20 years old. So time flies. So on the C5 here, I've got brakes that we're going to put on this. We originally started this job to replace the slack adjusters which go on the S-cam. We ended up getting the bushings put into the S-cam shaft holder here, and new S-cams, because we had to cut the old S-cams off. There's an old S-cam on the floor here. We had to cut the S-cam off in order to pound the shaft out through to get the slack adjuster off. And then inside these housings here, there's a plastic bushing, and that plastic bushing is what the S-cam wears on. And you'll wear these out, and you'll also wear the S-cam, and we had a lot of slop back and forth from the S-cam, and they have to be done time to time, and this is probably the first time it's ever been done on this truck. And I don't ever recall ever having to do a truck, there hasn't been none of the trucks that we have I had to do them twice, so that you get quite a bit of time out of S-cams and bushings and whatnot. We only have a set of brakes last us about a year. These brakes were done back last spring. We are probably, 3-4 months ahead of schedule here, but since we had to take the wheels off and all that crap, I felt that we would just put all new parts back on. It's relatively cheap to put shoes and drums back on. I'm talking like $600-700. It's relatively cheap compared to the amount of components, the stuff that's going back on there. A passenger car will cost you more than that. So it's just the cost of what everything is here. So, well, this project's been going together so well, I probably should turn the camera on, film a little bit. I've got the other side, the drive axles are put in, slack adjusters, all that stuff's hooked up, drums are on, shoes, all that stuff. So what I'm just waiting for here, I don't have the slack adjuster hooked to the brake chamber itself. We'll air the truck up, run that, release the park brake so that them chambers will pull in, and then we can set that slack adjuster so that we can pin it into the canister itself, and then we can do the brake adjustment from there. So we might as well get this other side back together. I can show you a little bit about how that all works. Now, I've got the shoes on the front axle. I've got to hook the springs to those, and I've got to put the shoes on this rear axle here yet. Hook that up, and then we'll set the slack adjuster on there, put the brake canisters on. I ended up replacing all 4 brake canisters. I was not planning on doing that. However, I had one that had a broken spring in it, so I figured, you know what, let's just do them all. They look damn near like they were original brake chambers, which is hard to believe. Now, this original project, I had said earlier that all we're just trying to accomplish here is to replace the slack adjusters. The slack adjusters have an adjusting screw on the back side that, well, it's right here, and that adjusting screw was rounded off, and I wanted to, well, here's one right here, and you could see that one is just, it's all rounded off. You couldn't even get a wrench on there. And then we were trying to adjust them with vice grips and every other damn thing, and they were just slipping and sliding, so it just turned into a frickin' mess. So they should have a larger frickin' hex drive on them, and I had said it before, I don't know if it was in this part of the video or another video, that we have put nuts on here and welded, like a 1/2-inch nut. Actually, that'd be about a 7/16, not quite. And that gives you a little more meat to get a hold of there. So they've since updated these slack adjusters. These ones are a little different, not much. The arm on them is protruded back a little farther, which is no big deal. That's going to work. So we're going to get the brake shoes hooked up and get the rest of this project done. All right, so we're getting these brake shoes hooked. This is a 30-30 brake chamber here, and the fittings that are up on the top of it here are too far down around the side for my hoses to reach, so I need to clock it. And in order to do that, there is what you call a cage bolt. This bolt here, you can shove it in the back of the brake chamber, and you can pull the spring brake back, and it allows you to loosen this collar up and adjust it. But it's a lot of threads that you gotta run, so I end up just taking an air fitting, I put it in on the spring brake side, and I suck that, I load this chamber, push that brake back, and then I can get this assembly here off in there, because right now this spring brake is pushed out on this rod and it's got a lot of force on it, and you can't get this clamp off. Now they've got these brake chambers now where you cannot get the back part apart. It used to be that you were able to get this and you were able to change this actual spring brake, and a lot of guys got hurt. So you got to be careful working on these. So just got to take a pair of vice grips here, and we're going to grab onto the actual control rod like that, and then I'm going to air this side of it, and I can loosen up this collar and I can turn it. I've got to clock this part here. I've got to turn that to about there. So give me a second here and we will adjust this. So we're just going to take shop air, load the spring brake, take and loosen up our V-clamp. And then I've got this cage bolt. I always take them out of the chamber because the bolt's metal and the damn chamber is aluminum. And I have seen where the rust is built up on the bolt, and it actually splits this aluminum part of the housing. So V-clamp's loose. We should be able to turn this. Gotta loosen it up a little more. There. Alright, so now I just have to tighten the clamp up. I've got this where I need to have it. Alright, we've got that where it's got to go, and then we're just, and now we'll swap our fitting back. Well, we've got the brake chambers on this side. The other side is basically ready for wheels. I've got the slack adjusters on the right side. The brakes are adjusted, so everything is set and ready to go there. I aired the truck up so that I was able to pull the brake chamber back out of the park position, and then I was able to set the brakes on this side. So we're going to finish hooking up the other side here, which I've got the brand new seals in the hubs. This back hub has got the ABS ring on it. You can kind of see the tooth ring on there, and the seal and the bearings in there. So we're just going to pour a little bit of gear oil in on both of the inner bearings, and then I'll pour some gear oil in around the outer bearing, and then we will preload everything, get the hub in place, slap some new brake drums on there, and we can adjust the brakes, get the slack adjusters hooked up on this side, and then we can start throwing some tires on it and call it a night here. Alright, so I've just got some gear oil in this little quart bottle here, and I put some gear oil in these bearings before I set them in the hub. We're just going to put a little more in now and just kind of get them wet a little bit. The best thing to use is what you have in the differential, so that you're not mixing oils together and all that crap. You don't really want to put them in dry either, because you need to preload the bearing. Once you get everything all together, we've got to torque the outer nut down, and you don't want to set that preload with everything dry. We got that. Just set our hub up on there. These are aluminum Conmet hubs. They take this inner spacer here that goes in between the two bearings. Set that in there, and we'll just take our outer bearing, set that in, and then I use a Stemco. These are Pro Torque end wheel nuts here, and we've had real good luck with these. I'll show you what this had on. Actually, I've got everything in the pail here. This had the old style locking nut assembly. Well, let me get this on there first before I have this damn thing pop out and fall onto the floor. Alright, what this had on there originally was this style. What do we got here? You run this nut on first. You get that on there. Then you drop this. This ring here fits inside that groove. And then there's a peg. So you drop that in on that peg there. And then you put this lock ring in there, like this. Then you run this outer nut on there. Torque the hell out of this one. Get it all on there, and then you pull all these ears down. It's a kind of a junky frickin' design. So, yeah, this is just telling that it's an LMS hub. So there's a little bit of a different torque setting to that. So here's the front hub. Yeah, I gotta oil this one. Alright, so the hubs are on. Now I've got to get my torque wrench. I've got 2 torque wrenches set up here. I have a one torque wrench that I have set for 200 pounds torque. So spin this nut on. Alright, so that's getting almost to the limit. So we got this torque wrench here set for 200 pounds. We want to spin the hub. Hold in on it. Alright, so that's set at 200. Then I've got a mark on the socket here. We need to back that off 1 full turn. Alright, that's at that 1 full turn. Then we need 2. I've got 2 torque wrenches that I'm using so that I haven't got to run adjustment out on the both of them here. Just do it once. So now I need to, I got this torque wrench set at 50 pounds. Now I need to turn the hub and tighten at the same time. Now I've got that tight. Now I need to back off and about 1/4 of a turn. And that's where we want to be. So that's the proper setting there. Alright, we've got the hubs in place. Both hubs, or axle ends, are torqued and set. Now we just need to put these little lock rings in there. This lock ring is going to keep that nut from loosening up and falling off. So what this little ring does, see if I can run the camera and work at the same time here. There's a groove in the axle. Let me get some light on this. So what we have is a groove in the axle right here. So we're just gonna set the top of this locking collar up in, there's like a inner groove on this nut here, and then you can see the teeth all the way around it, and then these teeth here are going to lock in to those teeth that are on the nut. Let's see if I can do this with one hand here. So that is pushed in and locked in, and then you can see it is setting into the grooves there. And then you just take these little ends here and you just lock them. You just pull the one in, that one's setting in there, and then that one's setting in. So we are setting in the groove there. The nut can't turn because this orange ring is locked into that groove, and then the nut can't turn because the orange piece has got teeth on it, and those teeth are locked into the inner teeth on that ring there. You can kind of see it. I don't know how well it's going to come out on camera there, but got to do the same to the other side there. And then So we've got to do the same thing to the front axle, and then we can put our drive axles in, slap the hubs on, get the slack adjusters in there, adjust the brakes. What we'll do is we'll adjust the shoes to get them shoes up as tight to the drum as we can get it. All right, let's get that one in there and get our drive axles in place. All right, so we're just going to set these drive axles in. We've got some silicone on there. We got to, of course, get the line up in the differential there. Alright, grab the rear. And alright, we just need to bolt this in. I'll set the slack adjusters in there and we will rejoin you in a little while here. Alright, so we lack one bolt. I've lost a bolt here for that drive hub there. So I've got to look for that. I don't know where the heck that went. So we'll slap the drums on and then we can get our slack adjusters on. Just let that air up for a minute. It'll load them airbags, and then the suspension, it'll lift the suspension up off the axles, and we'll be able to get that jack stand out of there. Alright, that's going to do it for this job. We got the suspension aired up, got the jack stand out of the way, everything's all put back together. This originally was just going to be a slack adjuster job, and ended up turning into a lot more than that. We did replace an airbag on this about 3 months ago, and I had ended up buying four for it, and we just didn't have time to change the other 3 months ago, but we had one that the aluminum base was broke out on it, and I was worried that it was going to puncture the bag, so we changed that one, and I figured as long as it's in here, we'll do them other 3, being that we had the wheels off and everything else. So that's all done. This thing's ready to go. We just got to torque the wheels in the morning, top off the differentials with oil. Now, just want to touch briefly on what these airbags do, in case some of you don't know. The airbags is the suspension on most road tractors. Some road tractors have, or some trucks rather, have a spring suspension, and on most road tractors they just use an airbag. This is a 4-bag unit. It's a New Way Air Ride. This seems to be quite a bit tougher than the 8-bag Air Ride that we got on our other road tractor. Some guys say that. These don't walk as much, but I don't know. It seems to be a lot tougher. We're not tearing bushings out and whatever like that. This has got a 52,000 pound rear on it and a 16,000 pound front, so it's been a pretty good truck. So I'm pretty sure the components that we changed out on this were all original. In case you're wondering, you see some blue paint on this frame here. This truck frame originally was blue and the cab was white. I bought this about 4 years ago now, and in January of 2016 we painted it black and red, painted the frame red, and as you can see there's some red paint coming off the frame here. This truck was an oil field truck and it came out of Alberta or something like that, but it had some, well, it did oil field work of some kind, so, and then it got changed over into a road tractor here. So, well, that's gonna do it for this video, folks. I want to thank you for watching. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video. Drop me a comment down below, and we'll catch you at the next video, folks. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.